Next, we're the promotions team. There's 3 of us in this group. It's myself, Clayton, Emily, and Klajdi.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. So for table of contents, the things that we're going to be going through in our presentation is, first off, the deliverables of the promotions team, then the methods that we use to communicate, and then our results for our deliverables, which is the ASME informational document, the ASME student presentation and student slideshow, the ASME New York slideshow, the conference call, and then we're going to go through some problems and challenges we faced, the future recommendations for these projects, and also the future recommendations for the council.
As Klajdi mentioned, we have several deliverables, and to give you an overview of those, the first one is the informational documents, which Clayton was responsible for revising existing documents from previous years in order to inform future applicants about the Collegiate Council. The second deliverable was a presentation that is designed for an audience of students and to be presented. There's flexibility on what will be presented depending on who's presenting it. There was also a manual or document that assists the presenter in how to present and what to include depending on the time they have to present and other factors. Then there's a presentation designed for the ASME management and a conference call proposal for future years to assist the process of gathering future applicants and letting them know about the Collegiate Council.
Okay, so I'm being told that it's hard to see my screen. It's zoomed way in. Is that true for everybody?
I'm not having a problem. I'm running 2 screens right now, so I can see everyone and also see the slideshow pretty well.
Yes, I can see it too.
Yeah, looks fine to me. I can see the slide called deliverables.
Okay, then it might just be me. Ignore me.
All right. So our methods for communicating to get everything done, we primarily used a group chat that we had on iMessage, and we made a schedule with dates and times for meetings that we had with one another and our goals of what we wanted to see done at that point, like our first draft, second draft. We used a Trello board to really get started and post everything that we wanted to deliver and what that included. We used the Google Drive, of course, and email. All right. So this is one of the first deliverables. Is the informational document. This was first created last year because I was a first-time student last year and I was having a hard time trying to find all the information I needed to feel comfortable applying. And when I would tell my professor, for instance, if I had a test that we were going to be gone, my professor said, yeah, that's fine, but what is it? So I would have to print out 3 different things to let them read so that they could get an idea for what it was. So that was the goal last year, was to change that and create a 1-page document that somebody could read and know everything they need to know about the council. So on the left is last year's informational document. And on the right is this year's updated version with the updated logo. It's more organized. And it was an accident to make it the way that it turned out, but it turned out pretty good. If anybody's familiar with the show Bar Rescue, it was funny, I was watching it and he would pull up to a bunch of them and look in the windows and say, you see the windows, they don't have any calls to action. They don't have any signs that show that make somebody want to come in. So I said, okay, well, I can apply that idea to this with these big blue letters. What is it? Why apply? It helps to organize it, but it also makes a person want to read it, in my opinion, versus just a bunch of words like last year's on the left. This year's makes you want to read it, and you can read the information that you want to read. You may not want to read why apply or contact, but you might want to know what it is so you know where to go immediately. So this year, it can be used as an information source, but also as an ad at this point.
So when working on the ASME student PowerPoint, my main goal is to make it a lot more attractive. So the whole goal is to kind of sell the ASME PD Collegiate Council to students, want them to apply and have as many great applicants applying as possible. So in order to do this, I first started off by trying to determine a very clean, attractive, and eye-catching theme to use, while also focusing on mainly the perks to really show what makes the Collegiate Council attractive. Through this, I then added detailed notes to make the presentation effective. So my goal was to make the presentation be able to be presented by anyone. So it could be either a Collegiate Council member or anyone who is a part of the ASME organization at different universities, to be able to go through the presentation beforehand and spend probably 10-15 minutes looking through all the notes and completely know how to present it very well and understanding all the material in it. I also then used animations to make the presentation more focused and have the audience really focus on key points instead of just get lost looking and reading forward instead of listening to the presenter. And I also then worked on designing the presentation into several main sections. So the goal for that was so anyone could customize the presentation into how they want, with the focus being on whether the presenter wants the presentation to be 5 minutes long, 30 minutes long, or what key aspects they want to present. To also make this very easy for the presenter, I developed a presentation manual, and as a quick snippet of it is shown on the right, you can see there I included kind of the different, how you format the different presentation templates I've put together, how to kind of use what parts of the presentation to make sure you get the point across, and which ones to use if you have less time, which ones to use if you have more time. And also things to update yearly on the presentation to kind of make it easier for us to use this and not have to make too many changes year round or be too confused on what these changes are. So the student PowerPoint is split up into several sections. So the main reason for it, of course, is to promote the ASME PD Collegiate Council. It focuses on what the Collegiate Council is, why apply, and here I put some of the perks. For example, the face-to-face meetings, the mentorship we gain, the networking through the different industry and collegiate partners. So for all the different students that come through around the world, and also the different industry partners that we go for, whether it be for tours or presentations or whatever it is. Also, the next perk is learning and internship opportunity, such as our current mentors and interns right now. And then moving forward, I had sections on why the energy industry, focus on the perks, what it has to offer, industry segments, and kind of what one can get from a barrel of oil, and then who can applying, and then when to apply, and then a contact page and ASME promo videos. So kind of try to focus on the main information and put different sections, for example, why the energy industry, that might not be too important to present in a place where the energy industry is very popular, such as Houston, for example. However, me being from Connecticut, not so many people understand all the perks and great things it has to offer. So that section could be used when being presented into a location like mine. I also try to make the presentation very clean and easy to use. For example, all of the contact page has all the links to the our different social media sites, and you just have to click on a logo and it'll send you straight there. Here you can see kind of, I just try to put snippets just so you could get a quick glimpse of my presentation. As you can see, it's divided. You can see the why apply section, then the why energy, who can apply, and this was made so you could just simply cut those sections out if you wanted to and use and focus on what you primarily want to. And I just try to go for a very clean format so it's not too busy. The next deliverable that I worked on, and I was able to get some support from Clayton, was the ASME Silent Hallway PowerPoint. So we both worked on developing this to be played in common areas. The presentation, this presentation focused on what the Collegiate Council is, why apply, the application criteria, the application timeline, and then a contact page or social media page. So we wanted to make this eye-catching, present its perks, and display the key information. So this was something that could be played anywhere, and we wanted anyone to be able to walk by and quickly get great information from it and get really encouraged to apply. We set up the presentation in a loop setup and also implemented QR codes, which I thought would be really helpful for a display if it's like a hallway or silent presentation where people could just walk by and instead of having to look it up after, could just pick up their phone, just aim the camera at it, and just use the QR codes to go straight to the websites and follow all the social media pages. Here you can see kind of a quick glimpse of that. It's just a very quick 6-minute presentation. You can see the QR code in the beginning, which sends you to the website, and in the end, which sends you to each of our social media pages. And we just thought that this is very clean, gets the point across, and is very attractive and gets people more interested.
So for the ASME New York PowerPoint, it doesn't have a title yet, which the reason for that is because this presentation is still going to be developed further in the coming weeks and months. And first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who has contributed to this presentation, including every Collegiate Council member who submitted an input form, which I sent out in March, where they provided their responses to many questions that helped in including information of their opinions in this presentation. Also Danielle, Angelica, and Idalia, who revised the presentation and provided necessary information like contact information for past participants so that they can also receive a similar input form. And then of course, Klajdi and Clayton for supporting this project, and Dina and Dawn as well. So everybody, thank you for your contributions. What the goal is in this presentation is to demonstrate why Collegiate Council should continue to be implemented not only in the Petroleum Division, but across ASME in the future. This project can be further developed in the future to be able to actually make steps towards implementing it. But the presentation encompasses several sections, including the showing what the Collegiate Council is, how it aligns with the mission and vision of ASME overall.
Are we on the correct slide?
Yes.
Okay.
how to, what the Collegiate Council has achieved. We did this through showing input from current participants, and also it gives a brief description of the projects that were completed this year. It also has a section where we provide some recommendations on how ASME divisions can develop a similar program. And also we describe the responsibilities of everyone in the Collegiate Council. And lastly, it also says what participants have said, both current participants and past participants. Next slide. The last deliverable that we worked on this year was proposing that we have a conference call in the future. Because of the virus pandemic, we were unable to actually plan this out further, and but we hope that this can be done with everyone who is available in the future, not only the current council, but past participants as well. And what we did this year is have some questions ready that we could ask during the conference call. I believe that this will be an excellent opportunity to let other students know about the Collegiate Council, because even though we send out flyers and documents, having something like this for people to either participate in live or be able to look at it later. Perhaps we can make a recording of it and put it on the website available for people to learn about when they do come to the website. So this was the last deliverable that we came up with this year to be able to support the process of applicants. Next slide.
When it comes to problems and challenges that we faced, one of the first problems and challenges that I thought of was working through several different time zones. And this I thought was really great because it kind of gives you a great idea of what it's like working in the real world. Throughout the few internships I've had, that's one of the most difficult things that I've learned that we go through. It's kind of having to have these meetings and communicate with people all throughout the world. And it allows us to all be very flexible and to really truly learn how to set up these meetings and be effective, as everyone is coming from a few hours difference. And I thought this was a really neat part of it and kind of gave us a great experience into the real world.
So one problem that came to mind for me was producing the amount of deliverables and organizing them appropriately, because I think initially we had 7 or 8 things that we were going to try to deliver, and we had to figure out what we were capable of handling, to where instead of producing a lot with only getting a little out of it, we could produce as much as we could, but everything we produced would be good. And in the process of that, some new ideas came to light too, like the conference call. Going through the projects and realize, hey, this might be a good thing. So that was another thing that ended up being doable.
So another challenge that we realized throughout the year is that the communication from us, the Collegiate Council, to the different universities hasn't really been established. So that in order to make that happen, that we could do a lot of things. Like I said, the conference call is one way for people to have access to learning about what the Collegiate Council is, even though they don't know anybody who's in it or know about it at all. It can be shown to students who are not current members of ASME and who will be encouraged to become members. And likewise for people who already are members of ASME but haven't considered participating in programs like this one.
when it,
So some future recommendations for each project. For the document, I say just keep the information updated if anything should change, like the website, who to contact, anything that could change to where it couldn't be used every year. But that should be the only thing that changes. This should be something that is low upkeep. It should be able to be reused every single year as long as no contact info changes.
when it comes to the ASME student PowerPoint and the slideshow, same as what Clayton said, kind of it was made to be something that doesn't get changed much, and through the guide you could see exactly what will need to be updated. For example, it'll tell you exactly where the dates are and any contact information if that needs to be updated as well. But overall, it should just be updated with kind of the current year's trip and new application deadlines.
Recommendations for any deliverable would be to begin early with getting feedback from your own team, maybe the collegiate council as a whole, and of course from the mentor and coordinator. Do that in the beginning so that you have more time to do a better, have a better outcome. Specifically for the PowerPoint design for the ASME management, one recommendation is for the person presenting it to really explain why they're presenting it and what has been the impact on them. So like I mentioned before, what's already in the presentation is a description of the impact on people as a whole, so the current participants and the past participants, but the recommendation would be to highlight why or how you have been impacted, depending on who's presenting it. The recommendation for the conference call is that students in the future use the presentation that we've created this year intended for the students, presented at their universities, and that way they can also establish a communication with the students, with the faculty advisors, and later on be able to invite them to the conference call whenever it is going to happen.
For future recommendations for the ASME Petroleum Division Collegiate Council, my recommendation that I thought of was creating new industry and collegiate partners promo collages. So I thought this was important because overall, I think that we have so many amazing partners with partnerships with schools from all the different members that we've had from them, and also from different leading companies around the world. So I think it's important for us to clearly highlight that and have those updated as much as possible to truly showcase just how powerful and connected the Collegiate Council is.
And I feel that we need to make sure we keep all of our promotional materials updated. I really feel like that should be a yearly thing, every single year. Have a team to make sure that everything is up to date. So that's one of the worst things, to have something out there that's out of date and it won't be good information. And attempt to include the ad in the blast email if that's possible.
And then another recommendation for the Collegiate Council overall would be to have a conference call in between the fall and spring meetings so that teams can communicate and be able to support each other so that whatever work they're already doing, it isn't duplicated if it doesn't have to be.
And that's all for the promotions team. We thank y'all. Y'all have any questions for us or comments?
This is Jim Caccioli. If I just make some comments. First of all, this goes to your team. Great work, and everybody else that haven't even talked yet. On behalf of executive committee, I want to thank you all for what you have done. I want to thank everybody for being creative and keeping this going even during these difficult times that the whole world is going through. I really, really, truly appreciate your efforts. And also want to emphasize that the Petroleum Division Executive Committee, and I can speak on behalf of the other members that are not here today, but certainly Jean-Francois and Brian will agree with me, and Don and others, that Collegiate Council is very important in our view, and we pay a lot of attention to students and universities and development, and we see that as the future of the engineering in general. I know these are difficult times, particularly when you speak for oil and gas, but for those of us that have been around for a while, we've seen it going up and down. The demand for energy is not going anywhere. The world will need energy, and I promise you that your future in engineering in general is going to be bright, even though at times like this it may seem a bit difficult and uncertain. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for doing this, and thank you to everybody for the efforts and for being creative. And we greatly appreciate your work.
Yeah, Jim, thank you very much. I fully agree with what you said, and I just want to say that when I started in the oil industry in the early 70s, that was not so bright either, and you know, there were so many ups and downs, and it's very nice to see that young and bright engineers are interested, and I'm sure there will be room for the oil industry in 40 or 50 years from now. So thank you very much.
I wanted to say thank you. I think this team hit on some key things I think are good takeaways for all engineers. One of them is I think marketing. Do we teach marketing in engineering? No, but I think marketing is a really powerful tool that every engineer ought to kind of understand, because it's important within your company, outside your company, for your career. Standardization, it's not very sexy, it doesn't seem very creative, but your whole comment about standardizing things can add tremendous value to companies, and that's I think a great point that you all have brought out. You all kind of focus on hitting on a toolbox, which I think is critically important for your career. I would recommend each one of you take a look at that toolbox that you're building. And because it's not only about what you build for your own toolbox, but how that toolbox can be used, with other people, which is hugely important for, adding value to the company and then also progressing your career. You all mentioned about front-end loading of feedback, which is hugely important in any project. And I really do appreciate your suggestion on changes to adding teleconferences and to the Collegiate Council program. I think that's something that needs to be definitely considered, and so thank you. So I'm impressed. Thank you very much, and I'm going to stop talking.
A couple things. We messed up a little bit. Could I get Jim, Jean, Francois, and Brian just to introduce yourselves real quick to the rest of the group? I mentioned you're the executive committee, but if you could just take a minute each and do that so that everyone knows who you are.
Sure. I'll start. I'm Jim Katshouli. So as Don said, I'm part of the executive committee of Petroleum Division. And I've been active with ASME for over 20 years now in various activities. Also, I work with the Offshore Technology Conference in Houston, and I chair the ASME organization for that committee. On my daily job, I work for a company called Drillquip. I'm a vice president of engineering and R&D. I started my career there as a mechanical engineer. So I've been over 20 years with the company there as well. And I'll pass it to Brian and Jean-Francois from here.
John, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first or second?
I can go now.
Okay.
My name is Jean Saint-Marcoux. I'm French, and I'm in Paris. That probably looks strange for the petroleum industry, but that's the case. I have done all my career in offshore construction engineering, of course, for the oil and gas industry in several countries, for a company which is Subsea 7 and all the predecessors of Subsea 7. I actually started working for Cameron Iron Works a couple of years, and then building platforms, and eventually dealing with deep water in Gulf of Mexico and West Africa. And about 20 years ago, I started joining ASME and the OTC Petroleum ASME OTC programming subcommittee, which is a very interesting place to be, and because it gives you the opportunity to look at all the developments in mechanical engineering that pertain to the oil and gas industry. And we're still looking at this at the moment. There is the Arthur Levinsky Challenge. We look at several of the papers which are being presented even at OTC 2020, and we try to find which is the best mechanical engineering paper. OTC 2020 is not taking place, but the awards, the ASME awards for OTC 2020 are taking place. So the message I would like to give you is you have selected an industry which is a challenging one, full of ups and downs, but keep going. I'm sure you will have a very rewarding career. That's all for me.
Okay. Thank you. I'm Brian Webster. You all have met me briefly before. I have been active in, I was trying to add up how many years I've been active in ASME in one way or another, and it's more than 25, so I stopped counting at that point. And so I've been an engineer in several parts of the industry. I've worked midstream, I've worked downstream, I've worked a little bit in upstream, and currently working in projects building major plants. So currently work for Shell. And I focus on the operational readiness of billion-dollar projects. How do we get them ready to run? And so engineering is more than just running calculations and thinking about the stuff that we're building, but it's actually the people, the work processes, the data, the documents, and how it all combines together. And so I think seeking out the broadening experience is probably pretty good. So that's all I have. So thank you.
And to Brian's introduction, just to add, the reason you met him before is he is in fact our point of contact into the executive committee. One of his roles is each of them have their task, and this year at least, that was his role. So that's why you met him, and the fact that he's here on a Sunday taking his time to do this says how seriously, the fact all three of them, how seriously the executive committee takes this. So we appreciate that. I just had a couple of quick items. In the discussion about the student presentations and the guidance document that you guys put together for it, you might want to think about ask them to provide feedback to a person or somebody when they do it. They may actually learn some things doing it that they go, man, that worked great. But if in that guidance document we put a place, even if it's just an email address with no name, but student present, to encourage them to share what they did or a particular slide or something. Since you put that document together, that would be great, because we did a lot of talking about feedback and this, and it hit me that if that isn't in there, we ought to make sure it's there. And then to add to the connection with the students, there's a professor at Texas Tech named Jeff Hansen. He took that delivering oil project we developed in the Collegiate Council a few years ago and evolved that into a classroom project. And he's also become sort of a bit of a YouTube phenom. He's got some channels where he's teaching statics and dynamics and this and that, and he presented at the digital eFest. And so I touched base with him after that to say, hey, you did a great job. And he said, please do not let me not stay involved in this program. So just to let everyone know that the quality of the work we've done and this and that is encouraging professor to want to join our efforts and make sure that we're getting that feedback from an education point of view that I think y'all were implying you were after as part of some of these conversations. So the quality of the things that you've done have already had seeds start to grow. So thank you guys for that.
Hey, Don, can I just make a quick comment, if I may? I also want to thank Danielle and the ASME staff for helping, and certainly for inviting us to be here today. Danielle, thanks for the reminders. And as you can see, the reminders, frequent reminders work. And that's, at least you didn't get the whole committee, but you got 3 of us, so I really appreciate that. And there's a lot of work that happens in the background for these things to happen. And Danielle is always behind there with the rest of the staff to get us here. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Jim.
I was going to wait till the end, but just to reinforce that, she's taken the support up another step. And if you guys can make sure that the rest of the organization and staff is aware of that, and you saw evidence of it today, that we would appreciate it.
This is Dina. I just want to add that, going forward, I think the presentation so far is one of the most professional ones that we've seen presented, and I think the virtual meeting has really helped facilitate that, as well as solicit a higher participation from the PDEC. So going forward, this is a learning experience for us as mentors, but I would like to see all of our, future presentations, with virtual capabilities, so that we can, encourage participation from the PDEC going forward remotely, much like we're doing now. I think not everyone's able to travel, for the weekend to participate in some of these and come to the presentations, and we've tried where we've had the second meeting, more locally in Houston, to allow, a greater number of folks that, live and reside there, that capability to come and sit in person. But, I want to reach out and say thank you very much for your time and dedication to the program, especially with signing in today to hear the students present. So thank you.